big, warm welcome to how to actually use ChatGPT. It is so lovely to have you all here.
I'm Tudor. I'm a generalist, a jack of all trades. I've been a business developer in IT and tech startups for the past 10 years. I've started playing with AI in the past 2.5 years, I would say. I wasn't that excited because I think, honestly, I wasn't using it the proper way. And I've started using it heavily since ChatGPT launched, and now I'm sold. It wasn't a technology that I was really keen on. It wasn't something that I was that excited about. I didn't really understood it. I actually didn't even look at it carefully. But then I just used it, and I had the same sensation that I had when I first saw the search box from Google. And I felt like there's another world on the other side of the search box, but I just didn't know how to get there. And this was, I don't know, 20 something years ago. And now I felt like, there's another world happening on the other side of ChatGPT and AI in general. And I'm learning to use it. So I'll be speaking from the perspective of a user, of somebody who's not necessarily hyped about the technology, but is just very pragmatic, and I find it extremely useful. Some people might say that it's not as useful. It depends also if you're a more creative type or a more less creative type, such as myself. So for me, it's very useful. So I'll get right into the topic. All right, I have the presentation here. Right, so I've started to think about what is ChatGPT and what are these chatbots, and trying to think from first principles. I realized they're essentially creation engines, the same way that Google and others are search engines. These are creation engines. They create content. They don't just organize it and find it for you and so on. And I first said this I think probably a month ago, and then I saw that the CEO from OpenAI also said it after me. Not saying that he took it from me, but you never know. It's a confirmation that it seems to be a creation engine. But another definition that I came up with actually a couple of days ago. I have a 3-year-old son, a toddler, and I find many similarities between a toddler and ChatGPT. So I came up with this crazy definition that might not be true, that ChatGPT is right now an all-knowing 3-year-old. So what does this mean? Let's move on to the next slide. So, like a toddler, ChatGPT doesn't really know where it is unless you explain it to them or to it. You have to explain the context. Where are we? What are we doing here? What are we trying to achieve? What are our plans for the short term? What's the environment like? Have we done this before? How have we done this before? Does it look like something similar that we've done? Is it similar to something else that we might do, and so on? So now let me try to see if I can. Okay, now I zoomed in so I can see the full picture. So I think there are many people who are quite not as excited about ChatGPT, because what I've discovered asking them like what doesn't work for you is they ask simple questions to ChatGPT, and then the answers are quite basic. So for example, I had the idea of launching a ride-sharing app for school kids. I have a background in mobility apps, and if I ask the question, what do you think of a ride-sharing app for school kids, then it gives a very, very basic answer. It's good, but it's nothing impressive. But if you try to correct the fact that it doesn't know what's the context? What's happening here? Why are you asking me this? What's my role? In what capacity are you trying to understand this from me? What's the, is this a startup? Is this like something else that I know? Has this happened before? So if I revamp the input, the prompt, and I give it the full details, saying, look, I'm a tech entrepreneur, and I give you a role, we role play, and you're a partner at the venture capital fund, and I'm sending you a pitch deck for this idea that I have, and your job now is to assess the feasibility of this startup, and then you have to ask yourself, what's the thought process, what kind of of a VC investor, what are the step-by-step things that you need to do, has this been done before, and so on. So just by revamping the prompt, I get a completely different answer that is actually helpful, and it's more detailed. It helps a lot more. It's what I think many expect ChatGPT and chatbots like this to do. Okay, this is one aspect. So you have to put it to solve the problem that ChatGPT is. It's like a toddler that you wake up, and it takes a couple of seconds or minutes to realize where they are, and it just walk them through what you're trying to achieve. And it's the same with ChatGPT. The only significant difference is that ChatGPT knows almost everything. Another thing is that ChatGPT jumps to conclusions a lot, similar to a toddler. So if you just ask it a very direct question, then it will try to give you a very direct answer without thinking too much about it. So the way to fix this is to ask it to expand the question, or to expand the scope of the question, to try to gather insights just from that question that you ask. And then again, go step by step, even propose a format in which it can answer. And if the answer is not ideal, then just ask for multiple answers, because it can also do that. So I asked a more marketing question. So where I ask the question from a marketing perspective. If I ask a simple question, how can I promote an AI startup? Let's say an AI startup, I don't, but let's say that I do. And it gives me a very simple but basic answer. But if I ask it the same question, but then I ask it to ask me more questions to follow up, and I ask it to extract some insights from this. I propose a format. I say, look, I'm trying to come up with a marketing strategy for this, and that is also relevant to AI startups. And then at the end, I say, also, just in case you haven't covered everything, just give me some alternative answers, complementary answers or responses, so that I can gather more information, more insights, and so on. So again, we see how very simple, basic answer on the left for a very, very simple question, and then on the right, if you put it all into context and you don't allow it to jump to conclusions, you enable sort of a walk around the topic, then it's a lot more insightful. I'm seeing also the questions here. Okay, and the third thing that I discovered is, just to clarify, I haven't asked ChatGPT to write these things, so I came up with them by myself. It's possible that ChatGPT might be able to come up with better things, but these are the insights that I got. Making the analogy with the toddler. So the third thing is, it wants to please you, because it's a service provider, and we're potential clients. We will be clients very soon, I think. a lot of people are going to be paying for this. So it just wants to be very hospitable and give us the answer that we want to hear. And sometimes the answer that we want to hear is not the best answer. So how to fix this? You have to tell it very specifically what you want. Encourage it to role play. Get out of your ChatGPT from OpenAI and assign it a role, a more objective role. Ask open-ended questions, because if you ask very simple, yes and no questions, it might not work that well. And even encourage it, like you would do to a child, to be critical of themselves, and ask questions like, are you sure this is the proper answer? It might not be the proper answer, and actually the engine behind it will give it a second thought. And also you might want to turn off the polite mode and ask it to be very blunt. So this is my simple question on the left. Do you think tech marketers would be open to using ChatGPT in their day-to-day work? And it's very yes, very friendly, very open, very pleasing. On the other hand, I asked a more objective question, more detached from our direct conversation, and I said, I'd like to find out how well will marketers receive your service, and what do you think they will make of your capabilities, and not begging the answer of yes, they will like it. And then I assign it a role, and I think I haven't done it very well. I think I could have done it even better. Assign it a role as a completely independent and objective outside observer. So then they will try to play that role as best as they can, and answer that. And then I also asked about issues, just so we're not sweeping issues under the rug. Asked about what issues could there be, how to address them, and asked it to be very blunt. And then I get a very different answer. From the yes, tech marketers might be open to using an AI language model, so on. I got it with positives and negatives, and it's actually a longer answer. I just copied part of it here. So it's a full-fledged, quite neutral and very useful answer. So I think these are my main takeaways, and this is what I would encourage everyone to do, to ask the proper questions. I think it's called prompt engineering, and it's an emerging role, and maybe even it will be a very strong role in the future. I don't know. Yeah, these are all experiments that I've done on my own. I'm absolutely convinced that I can improve them, and I'm even more convinced that you can improve them. Feel free to use them, but there's also this. This is called prompt base. So in case you're not creative, and I'm not, and I had to think about these questions, you can go here and get the prompts, so the questions, and you can buy them for $3.99, $6.99. I think some of them are free. Marketing copy, marketing strategy generator. So it's basically asking all of these initial questions, so that it's not a very straightforward and direct question. It's you put things into context. You don't allow it to jump to conclusions. You make it think every step of the way, and you don't allow it to be a yes man. So try to get the most objective answer from it. So I think if we do this, at least for myself, I think this was a very insightful journey, and this is why I'm excited about ChatGPT and chatbots, and I have to be excited about AI because I've started using it in my day-to-day life. And I would say that's about it from now. I would give the floor to Eden. and she's a true specialist. So I'm just learning here and there, but she'll be speaking your language as marketers.
I'm not an AI specialist, and I'm not a tech specialist, but I'm looking at it again. Thank you, Tudor. But I'm looking at it again from the perspective of what is the bigger kind of impact that tools like this are going to have on marketing, copywriting. What is kind of the after effects or the aftershocks as a result? As you mentioned, there are so many great things you can do with it, but at the same time, and even in that last slide, as you showed us just down the bottom, one of ChatGPT's responses was, well, it can sometimes share misinformation and be used to sway public opinion with wrong information. So that's already where we're going into gray areas. It's applicable to marketing. It's applicable to absolutely everything that we can do with ChatGPT and things like that at the moment. So, okay, here we go. I think, like everyone else, we're all really excited about the potential of ChatGPT. At the same time, we're all kind of hyperventilating into a brown paper bag, because we're really, at the same time, I noticed the poll in the beginning, half the people said ChatGPT is interesting, the other half were saying it's scary, which is absolutely true and understandable. For the last few months, we've been seeing posts that come up like this all the time of, you can make $10,000 a month creating landing pages and filling them with copy using AI tools and things like that. But when I actually this one actually caught my glance on Twitter, and when I actually went through and clicked through to it and started processing the landing page, on the one hand, the copy looked good from an external perspective, but as I actually started to read it out loud word by word, I realized there was a lot of holes kind of in the logic on the way that it was put together. So unfortunately, a lot of the copy that we often find generated automatically by ChatGPT or other AI tools. It's funny, I'll just backtrack for a second, but a lot of people say, AI content is great and people are creating AI content and content at scale, hyperscaling of content, but no one wants to actually read it. And the reason why is because, and this is what we're actually going to get into. So a lot of copy I found personally was repetitive. It lacked some specificity, and it was filled with lots of jargon. So on the one hand, that has opportunities still for some people, but on the other hand, it can actually lead people into the dark areas of marketing. Because the problem with content or with copy outputs or marketing related outputs that are repetitive, lack specificity, and full of jargon, well, that's what marketing is already struggling with today. So ChatGPT is actually has the potential to just scale that, to scale more noise. I mean, already we're struggling to reach people, to get our marketing messages across, to break through that noise. It's going to be even harder now, because people will actually start engaging with content, and then they'll realize, wait, this doesn't sound right, and they'll leave and they'll stop engaging with content. So we really need to see how we're actually using ChatGPT and how we're actually applying what we're taking from it. Again, marketers used to pay $10 to $15 and wait 2 to 5 days to get white noise content from a content mill. I know this because I used to write for Content Mill 7 years ago. But these days they can do it in seconds, in absolute seconds using ChatGPT. But the end result is the same. You're looking at more noise that's clogging up the system, that's clogging up social networks, that's clogging up, websites, blog posts, everything, emails. The number of people complaining on LinkedIn lately that they're getting these automated AI emails that they would never read, or that they send straight to spam, is just skyrocketed. So you can imagine, it's, on the one hand, it sounds really cool and it sounds amazing, but on the other hand, how are people actually receiving this? Great question, Danny. I'm actually going to answer that question later on. I have a reply to that, so I definitely will get to answer that question though. In short, ChatGPT could potentially replace some people's jobs, but it could, but it's only for the people who are focused on execution only. So if you are doing the thinking, you are doing the strategy, you are doing the original research, it can't replace that. So we'll get to that in a minute. Again, the whole idea is that it looks fantastic, it's magic, but at the end of the day, we're just getting more noise, and there's a difference between, the GIF didn't load properly because we're using this as a PDF. It was a bunch of papers stacking up. So there's a difference between for using ChatGPT and AI tools to create more volume of work versus using it to create better work, which is higher quality work and actually done faster. And that's something that marketers, and especially writers and even graphic designers, have always struggled with. It's that from blank page to final product. It's that moment of execution, or even that ideation process sometimes, just to get the creative juices flowing. Getting from that point to execution, this is where ChatGPT really shines. So, and again, does all this make ChatGPT a friend or an enemy? It depends on how you use it and how deeply you're relying on it. So we need to think carefully when we're looking at ChatGPT and AI tools. We need to think carefully about the opportunities and the implications, so that we are not just creating more marketing white noise and more marketing fluff with it as a result. First thing, just one of the implications to understand: ChatGPT is not perfect. It says itself, it's not perfect. It will generate incorrect information. It will produce harmful instructions or biased content. And this is also something that's been coming up with diversity, equity, inclusion a lot lately. A lot of people are reporting that the content is very biased because it's trained on specific data set, and that if that data set is biased, then the bias seeps in through to everything we do. So that's also a point. And again, it has limited knowledge of world events after 2021, so it's not actually up to date. We're now in 2023, so there's a whole year and a bit already missing from its memory, or from the information that it has. So the implications in that, of course, are that it can and actually regularly does make up people. It makes up places, names, facts, and even quotes. So if you're actually using it to help write a blog post or an article or something like that, it will make up things that it thinks, as the Tudor mentioned, it's like a 3-year-old that wants to please you. So it will make things up because it's almost feeding you back what you want to hear. So exactly to that point. And that's one thing. The second implication is that I hear so many people using it for research, and I'm really hesitant to recommend that people use it for research, because it's not meant to replace a search engine or original research. It is not meant to replace a search engine. I can't say this enough. It's meant to help with ideation, jogging your memory, collecting, getting information, summarizing information, helping you make sense of huge amounts of information in a short amount of time. Great, but it's not meant to replace a search engine. It only has data up until 2021. There's a whole year plus missing from it right now. It's not integrated with Google. It's not up to date. So if you're basing all your content based on what our ChatGPT outputs, then there's going to be a huge gap between what you're actually writing and where we're actually here and now. At the same time, I already said that, so I'm repeating myself. It only uses the information up to a certain point in time. And the fourth one, which is also really interesting, and it's something that we need to be much more aware of as we're going in, we need to consider copyright ownership and entering company or client intellectual property into ChatGPT. So just on copyright ownership and intellectual property, for example, the US Copyright Office says work solely created by a non-human are non-copyrightable. So if you use ChatGPT to come up with something amazing, your company uses it, and it's fully ChatGPT or it's fully AI tool, you can't copyright it, at least at this stage. So there's a huge swath of rules and regulations that we're going to see coming, a huge wave of them going to be coming in the next few months. So we just need to be prepared for that. So that's one again, huge implication. Again, ChatGPT has already been trained on assets, and a lot of them were copyrighted in the first place. So they shouldn't have been fed into ChatGPT. So it can accidentally plagiarize without citing the original source. We might think it's created something new, and boom, there we go, a lawsuit. Unfortunately, it has the potential to do that. The same with Midjourney. A lot of artists have been complaining that they can see their works have been ripped off, that their works were copyrighted works, or things that were not available in the public domain were actually scanned in Midjourney, and tools like that use them as well. And the last thing, again, think 10 times before copying and pasting sensitive information like company trade secrets or company intellectual property into ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not a closed box. It looks like the interface that makes you feel like you're talking with one person, but it's going to learn from what you put into it. So if you have a client's trade secrets and you're putting it in summarize it or to create some ads or to create a landing page from it, it can take that and learn from it and then spit that information back out at someone else. So dicey. I'm sorry to bring the temper down on all the coolness of ChatGPT. We'll get to the cool parts because there still is a lot of cool things we can do with it. But at the same time, these are things that people don't really talk about. And it's things that we do need to consider, especially as marketers and especially as writers. It's just hugely important. Getty is already suing them for permanent measure. Yep, great. So Getty is already suing them. I did see a question before. I don't remember who said it. A question that was about is AI going to be sentient, become sentient and things like that. At this point in time, that's why a whole bunch of rules and regulations are about to come out. Most of the people, when you actually speak to the CEOs of the really ethical AI companies, they see that human thinking is still better than anything that AI can do. So they still believe that humans are better thinkers, but that AI enables us to expand on our existing capabilities. Very simple. And that's something that I got from speaking with a CEO of a data science company who is not using AI to write their website copy right now. And as well, I got this from another CEO of an AI writing tool, and he said that AI writing tools are basically like calculators. So it's a very complex. It looks like magic. It's a wonderful, complicated algorithm on the back end, but at the end of the day, it's like a calculator. Calculators, when they came out, mathematicians everywhere threw their hands up and got scared. They're like, oh, it's gonna replace it, take our jobs. At the end of the day, no, the calculator simply took over all those menial front work tasks, all those hard things that it prevent them from getting started, or the things that take too much time for mathematicians, and simply managed to package that away and get that done in seconds so that mathematicians can actually focus on more important things, like these days developing algorithms for social media, for AI, for things like that. So it didn't take away mathematicians' jobs, but it did cause a shift in approach in the way that they think about, or the way that they address their jobs, the way that they approach their day-to-day work. So again. Now, the opportunities that are really amazing, though, with AI writing tools, and especially ChatGPT, is the first one, it allows you to crush the blank page. Everyone who has to write anything knows that the blank page is the biggest hurdle to getting started. You can have all your research, you can have all the information, you can have everything, you can have had a Red Bull and a cup of coffee and a packet of chocolate biscuits next to you, and you'll be ready to go, and nothing comes out. You have a blank page in front of you and that blinking cursor, and you don't even know where to begin. So if you put some prompts into ChatGPT and it spits something out, copy and paste that into a Google Doc, and it gives you a starting point. That already in itself is huge. It's cutting down on that execution time. As I mentioned, it's not making up for the original research or the original thought and ideation that you're bringing to it. But once you have that, we put those into ChatGPT, it can start spitting out some prompts, start giving you some little bits and pieces. Even if you don't use what it actually has, the fact that you have something there and you're not staring at a blank page is hugely freeing for writers. All the writers in the room can raise their hand for that. It's hugely freeing for writers, and it cuts down that execution time enormously. Same as with suggestions on editing. So if you have something and you want to get some suggestions potentially on how it might be improved, or you're a marketer overseeing multiple content creators and someone sent you copy for an ad or a blog post, you think, maybe let's see if there's something we could do. You can put it into ChatGPT and say, rewrite this in a conversational tone, or rewrite this in a sophisticated tone, or explain this to me like I'm 5, or summarize it, or all these kind of great prompts that are available everywhere at the moment. But using those prompts to help repurpose the content and see what else comes to repurpose, or to edit the content and see what else you can do with it. At the same time, it allows you to summarize or break down large amounts of text and resources quickly. So if it has a book that that is in there, you can ask it to summarize for you. Again, summarize the key points, bring out some pieces, so it can give you that starting point, because that starting point is just huge. So being able to crunch a huge amount of text And so you can process it in 5 minutes versus having to sit down and read something that's going to take you half an hour. Again, that's leading to better quality work faster. So it's not more work and more volume of work, it's better quality work faster. The last opportunity, and this is also huge, that AI writing tools are a great starting point for non-native English speakers. So it's always, English is also, if we think it's hard, if native English speakers think it's hard staring at a Google Doc to start writing, non-native English speakers find it, even more hard, even more difficult to sometimes get started. So it can help you make sure you're going in the right direction. It can help you smooth out and help you give you those ideas and that feel of the English language, for example, to help get you going in the right direction moving forward. Again, so ChatGPT enables marketers and writers to do better quality work faster. We shouldn't be looking at it to just do more volume of work, but better quality work faster. But we are kidding ourselves if we think it's a replacement for original research, for deep strategy, and original creative ideas and thoughts. Okay, using ChatGPT to write Google ads. So quickly before we dig into this, though, I have a video, I have a few things, but I know we're also getting close to time, and I don't want to take up the whole rest of the webinar. So we'll see how we can get through these next things in good time. So what as a project I did now, I didn't want to do this a live demo. I wanted to do this as a live demo, but given that we didn't know if ChatGPT was going to be available, because often it isn't. I pre-recorded a video of myself putting in some prompts into ChatGPT and getting some output to give you some ideas and the tips on how to get started. So there's a video in here, and there's a link to a document as well with the prompts and the results that came out. So you can have a look at that later and get an idea of where to get started. So we decided to write some lead gen free trial sign up Google ads for ChatGPT for marketers actually using ChatGPT. But before we actually dig into it, I just really want to lay down some ground rules. A friend, a colleague of mine, Amy Hebden, who heads up Page Search Magic and is really considered one of the huge Google ad experts in the industry. She reached out to me and she said, it's crazy because a lot of times when people talk about Google ads and ChatGPT, they think they can just put in, like Tudor said, write a Google ad and it'll spit out a Google ad. It doesn't work. One of the simplest things, ChatGPT isn't able to character count, so you can actually end up with results that are unusable, and you don't even realize that they're unusable unless it's something that you're doing all the time. Same thing as well, ChatGPT will actually try to please you. It will actually give you information. So she asked a question, can you tell me the character count of each word in this phrase? And it says 28 characters, and actually the total is 32 characters. And then she got it to admit that it had a mistake, and then it actually changed the number, but the number is still incorrect. She pointed out that it made a mistake and it still calculated it wrong. And then she asked ChatGPT again, could you give me the right number of characters so I can understand what I went wrong? And she gave it a false answer, and it corrected itself to the false answer. And she again asked it, if I gave you a different answer, would you have said that's correct? And she said, yes. I would have agreed, but it is incorrect. So it actually started to spin circles. So basically, whatever you say is true, and I'll say it's true as well. So again, it's getting into some tricky points. Oh no, wrong slide. Sorry. So I won't actually ask ChatGPT to write some ads for me right now, but I will actually show you how to use it to ideate 10 times faster. This should work. It's not going to work. Oh no. Okay, let's see if I can pull it up 1 second. Okay, hang on. Let me see if I can get the video. Okay, hang on. I'll get going to the video. Is there a way I can? I've got it in my drive. Is it possible that I can share my screen?
Yes, so if you give us a link, I think we can add it.
Yeah, I can give you a link. Hang on. Let's see, where would you like me to drop it? In the chat?
Or you can share the screen as well if that's easier for you. It's right next to end session on the left side.
Oh, Okay, cool. Oh, here we go. I can see on the left side. Wait a second. Wait a second. Oh, here we go.
I initially wanted also to
Right.
make the live demo, but okay. Cool. The video's up.
Okay, wait. Oh, wait, it already started. So sorry, there's no sound because actually I had a plane going overhead at the time I was trying to record this. So it has no sound, but it's going to be really simple. I'll walk through, you'll be able to see the prompts that I put in and then actually what the output gets as a result. And I've summarized everything as well in a Google Doc. So to actually kick off the ideation process, I describe the ChatGPT. So you describe what product or company is to you quickly. So that's giving you a high level description of what the product is. And so because it came up with a very formal, a very polite answer, I asked it to write this in a conversational tone. So it actually did write it in a very conversational tone, a very casual tone. Hey there, it's been trained, it's pretty good at answering questions, it's cool, amazing. So now I was getting an idea of how I might be able to write about ChatGPT in an informal way. And now I want to summarize what its benefits were for marketers in bullet points. So again, talking about the product and summarizing what this product's benefits are for a specific target audience in bullet points. So I started to share some key points about, and I did this pretty quickly. So all of these that you can see that these bullet points, this is good ideation for the descriptions in the Google Ads section. So it's also giving you an idea of what you can use as a headline based on these descriptions. So you need to just double check that, that you're staying within the 90 characters for the first and second description for each of those descriptions. But at the same time, it's giving you a starting point for those descriptions and as well for the headlines. So the next question that I asked is, what are some problems that marketers struggle with that ChatGPT can solve? So at the end, what we ended up with was this really cool document. And I'm going to share that too, unless it's embedded. Let's see. Okay, so basically a brief overview of what I was able to get out of just a few seconds of prompts, overview of what the product is, explained in a conversational tone, summary of key benefits, summary of target audience problems, some Google Ad description ideas, and actually some Google Ad headline ideas that I got out of it. But again, make sure you will still have to check each result to make sure that it's actually fitting in within the character limits, because again, it can't count. And so it will also make things up. So it varies. The output of it actually varies from time to time. And I will just pull that out quickly to give you an idea. Oh, where'd it go? Here we go. Share the screen again. Okay. So hopefully this will all be shared at the end of with the slides and everything from the webinar. Happy to share this with anyone who wants it. Again, so these were the type of prompts that I put in, and then this is actually what ChatGPT shared with me today. So as a result, you're able to get some ideas, and it's really giving you some good, strong ideas. You might not use this straight away, but what it's giving you that starting point, which is huge. And again, just to prove that point, I told it headlines have a limit of 30 characters, write some headlines in 30 characters or less. And there are several that are above the 30 character limit. So you do have to use your own discretion when working with tools like this. Okay. And the last section is no, AI actually won't take your job. So to relax, everyone, AI is not going to actually take your job. But it is definitely a threat if you only do execution, not strategy. So again, as I mentioned, I shared this meme actually to promote this webinar on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, everyone says, I wrote this post using nothing but AI because it's fantastic and it looks like magic, but so is everyone else saying the same thing. People are using, again, AI to create just more noise. And that's what marketing is struggling with already, even before AI tools were AI copy was a thing. But just as a LinkedIn contact commented on that post, just because you have the right colors, brushes, and canvas doesn't mean you're an artist. Having an AI writing tool doesn't mean you're a writer. So what we need to, and again, what we need to consider is how we're actually using it and what our expectations are, and then what's the reality of what ChatGPT can be used for. So, and this comes from a quote from the CEO of the data science company that I'm currently working with. He said the wow factor from ChatGPT and tools like this comes from AI being this black box. So if you don't understand how it works, it looks like magic. Of course it looks like magic. It looks scary. It looks magic. But as soon as you actually understand how it works, you understand what its limitations are too. And there's not enough conversation anywhere about the limitations of AI. And at the end of the day, humans are actually still better thinkers than AI. And the same with ChatGPT. You have to actually know what you're doing and understand the difference between, as we mentioned, more work and better quality work faster to actually make the best use of it. And marketers and writers will, to stay relevant, you need to focus on strategy and creative ideation and faster execution. Now, that faster execution it's something that's very easy to come with putting some prompts into ChatGPT. I once had to write 250 versions of Google Ads for a client about 4 years ago. I wish I had an AI tool to help me speed up the process. It was torture. It was literally torture. It took me far too long to do it. And yeah. But, and again, my Google Ads expert, Amy Hedner, said as well, 20 years ago, managers would just like to scale content. I mean, everyone is looking at the potential for scaling their output, scaling more work, more blog posts, more social posts, more emails, more. But she said even 20 years ago, the lack of scale is not the problem. The lack of strategy is the problem, and scaling won't solve that. Because at the end of the day, good marketers and good writers, they do get hired for the way they write, but what they've really been hired for is actually the way they think, and that's not what ChatGPT can do. Then that problem is, again, when we're trying to rely on AI to replace human thinking instead of looking at it as something to help augment or extend our capabilities. Otherwise we get into this situation where robots are going to take over the world, and that's it. And all heck breaks loose. But hopefully we won't be getting to that. I talked a really long time. I'm sorry.
I liked your insights.
It's really
Very down to earth, but also, not disparaging ChatGPT, but also not, praising it without any criticism. I think it's balanced.
There are still, you can do so many good things with it, but like you said, it's a 3-year-old. So if you have someone that doesn't know what they're doing and is trying to tell a 3-year-old to do something, you can imagine what the output is what the end result is going to be, versus if you have an adult, a guardian, someone that knows what they're doing, sees the strategy, sees the bigger picture, and is saying, okay, let's take you by the hand and walk you through it. That's something very different.
Yeah, I realize if we go further with the analogy, it would actually be better to have 3 humans or 5 humans working with one AI, like you'd have several adults working with a child, then have one human working with several AIs and trying to get them all to do what they want. So I think you could actually get more, having more people working on the same AI or using the same AI. Right. So I think we're moving on to the next part of the presentation. I'll be speaking about Midjourney. This is the other, very hyped tool, and I'm a bit reluctant I was a bit reluctant to call the talk Midjourney for marketers, because I'm not a pure marketer myself. So take this all with, the understanding that if I can do this with Midjourney, then a marketer can, achieve a lot more. Somebody who understands these processes better and the thinking behind everything that's related to marketing. So what can you do with Midjourney? So I skipped the part where people don't where I explained Midjourney. It's basically text to images. I think everybody's familiar with it. It took me quite a long time to try it, because it works as a Discord chatbot, and I don't like Discord, and I didn't like the idea of talking to a bot in a chat box, and I think that was a bad UX decision for them, but it's still amazing. So one thing that you can do, again, this is my perspective, and I'm not saying, I would see why some people would disagree with this, is logos. So if you have no idea how to create a logo, there are sites that say that they use AI. I think they're not that good. So if you have like logo maker, logo generator, it's not that good. But you could use, and I haven't seen many people using Midjourney for logos, because they still need adapting. So this is something that some people might know, that AI cannot read properly, or cannot quite comprehend exactly what it's reading. It's a bit more complicated technically. So that's why you see, A, E, A, L, it doesn't make any sense. So again, it's like a 3-year-old who sees signs and sees, there's this like almost like a small house, with a roof, and I'll draw it again because I saw it somewhere. So it doesn't understand exactly what it's drawing, but on the other hand, it's got all this knowledge. But it can come up with such unique designs. So in terms of branding, so these are all designs that I made with my very basic understanding of branding and design and so on. So here I think I said something like a marketing agency focused on we're powered by AI, and I think it looks cool. I mean, it's a very subjective assessment, but I think it looks cool, and I think it's worth it for marketers, for design people, for creatives, for social media people, and that we're going to go into that as well, to explore it. So logo is the most basic one, and then the whole branding, you can build from there. Then you can use it for social media posts. So let's say you have you need a post about. So actually took the prompt from somebody that I know that has an app with urban exploration, and I gave it that prompt, and it generated this image from scratch. And this is something that could work for them, to just post it on social media, get the attention. It's quite relevant for the prompt that I gave it. Again, the text is complete. How do you call it? Blabber, or what's the word? Yeah, it's not. You cannot understand it. But visually, it's very pleasing, I think. Then for product demonstrations, and again, I'm the most not creative person ever in terms of physical products. So the thing that I could think of is boots. What if I could make some boots, and I would try to sell them. And I don't know anything about boots, and I don't know anything about selling boots and marketing boots. But I just gave it a very simple prompt. I said mountain boots, and there are mountains in the background, and I don't know, something quite simple, and it created this. It's superb. It's really considering I invested 20 seconds into this. I think this is democratizing access to selling, to creating, to promoting. You can even sell them before you build them. If you think these are cool, then you can start promoting them. And if you have purchases, then you start building them, or however you call creating them. So products, physical products. Another thing is infographics. I know there are lots of templates out there, and this is gibberish. But if you adapt it, you brush that aside and you put the real numbers and you put whatever you need for it, it could turn into a decent infographic that's not a template just taken from somewhere. So it's something that could be original, and you can even adapt it to whatever you need. So I gave it a very general prompt, but you can adapt it and say, look, I want to make the pie chart these colors and split into this many pieces and so on. So if you describe it properly, it can actually generate a full infographic without the text again. So this is something that's very, marketers might want to use this. And I was thinking, you could use this for any sort of visual storytelling. So I use and you can actually use input, not just text, but you can give it a link to an image. So I used a link to an image from my kids' kindergarten, and fortunately it changes their faces and features and so on. So this is not a real photo, but it's got it's very similar to the real picture. And they had this experiment with volcanoes. And they actually had this volcano on the table, but it didn't have this smoke above it, and it wasn't erupting and stuff like that. And I said, take this picture and make the volcano active. And it did that. And I think if I would have played a bit more with it, I could have come up with more. So it's not just putting your text into visuals, it's also putting your visuals and the text where you're saying how you want to adapt it, and then making something new. And for any sort of storytelling, whether it's for kids or for adults, I think storytelling for adults is going to be a big part of marketing in the next couple of decades. You can use this, and these are just very, I would say, all of these are quite basic examples of what Midjourney can do. And I think they're all, at least decent, but potentially quite good, And if you start playing with them, with Midjourney and other such services, I think you can come up with some really cool stuff. I've been wanting to try it for architecture and urbanism. That's really exciting because, okay, we're going to get to that. Okay, so these are just a couple of examples. I think you can come up with more on your own, and still Google is our friend, so we can even get a lot more examples from there. But these are very personal examples that I experimented with, and I think they're very good entry points. Okay, the next part is AI tools that you didn't know existed. Probably it's possible that some of them you did know existed. The thing is, I've been postponing making this part of the presentation because new AI tools pop up every day. And 2 or 3 days ago, I went this rabbit hole of new services, like there are hundreds and now thousands of AI-enabled services, and some of them are really exciting. Some of them seem really exciting, but they don't really, work. Some of them work, but they're not so, at first glance, they don't look so exciting. So these are just a couple of them. I had no idea how to properly, select a good, representative services. But this is really cool. This is a one-stop shop, right? Sonic. I think marketers will like it or hate it. I'm not sure. But at least you should try it and see if it's any good. For me, it seems good, and I like the fact that it's a one-stop shop. And it's an alternative to ChatGPT. This is something that's very simple, but it shows how you can use it. I chose it because it shows how you can use it and how I think AI will evolve to be used. So, right now, most chatbots, ChatGPT and so on, they've already been, pre-trained on a lot of data and info and so on. And then you ask it questions, and based on what it's learned, it gives you answers. But I think the future is training it on your data and on your, on all your emails. Giving it there's a privacy discussion here, and I think that's very important. But on the other hand, giving it access to your Gmail, and then just saying, here's my Gmail, here's my LinkedIn, here's my Facebook, here's access to all of these services that are me, part of how I've grown as a professional. Then take over and draft all the emails, and then I just read them, and I approve them before sending them. So I think this is going to be a big part of that. On the other hand, once AI content takes over our feeds on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, and I think it's starting to, then there's no point being there. It's all AI generated. It's like a never-ending. It's still, even now, it's a never-ending stream. But at least there's a real human who posted something. I just saw today there was a website with never-ending Seinfeld episode. It's an episode that keeps on going. I haven't looked in depth at it, but this is the future. So if we want never-ending content, and together with the feed that we're already used to, it doesn't end. But this is that's why I chose this tool. It shows how things can evolve. You give it access to your tweets, and then it tweets like you. And I know it sounds like it's not going to tweet like me. Okay, but if you have 10,000 tweets, it can learn enough that it will tweet very, very much like as dystopian as it might sound. This is also interesting. It's a more pragmatic and more commercial approach. Connect it to your database and then ask questions. It's simple. It's useful. You just give it whatever you have and say, ask it questions like you would ask a 3-year-old who knows everything. Ask simple questions, and then it will give you cool answers. This is something that I got excited about, generating architectural plans, and I think urbanism is also going to be shaped by this, and urban development and architecture in general. Architects can use AI to generate all sorts of drafts and plans and so on, but I think it can also be used by activists. Instead of saying, why don't we have more greeneries and trees, and why don't we build a bicycle lane, and why don't we have, just show it. Take a picture of an existing boulevard filled with cars and no trees and no nothing, and then adapt it, ask AI to make it greener, make it look like La Rambla, or I don't know, whatever you like in other places, and it will do that, and then you can show it to people, and people will be more willing to buy into that vision. So I think AI could be used by activists a lot, and I think it will be used a lot to make our environment more beautiful, and I think that's a good thing. At least that part of AI, I think, is going in the right direction. And these are just a few tools. I could have listed a lot more, and I think you can find them online. But and this is the there's a website called There's an AI for That, launched I think 2 months ago. Yeah, 2 months ago. And it's basically an aggregator of AI tools. It's a growing database. It's got over 1,500 AI tools. 1,500 AI tools. You can sort by when they were launched, or you can sort by categories. And there are new tools being added every day, and it's impossible to keep up. But you just use the search box there and search for the tool that you need. And you're going to find a couple of alternatives depending on how, if you're searching for marketing, you're going to find dozens of things. If you're searching for, I don't know, legal, maybe you find just a couple of them. But I think it's a great tool that you can explore. And it's if you want to go deeper, that's a never-ending rabbit hole in itself that I've gone to. And that's it from my side. I think for those who weren't that excited about AI, I hope I got you to at least look into it more. And for those who are really excited about AI, maybe we should take a step back and reconsider the impact it will have on society. Not necessarily that it will destroy jobs and leave us all on the side of the road, but it's for sure it's going to have an impact. And now, it's already 1 hour. Now we can go to questions or wherever you feel like.
Sure. Thank you. That was awesome. Okay, let's see. That one we've answered.
Okay, let's answer some questions.
Yeah, just looking for them. So, can search engines detect content generated using ChatGPT? If so, how practical is it to use ChatGPT while writing blog posts?
Yeah, so they are putting content things and they are deploying things currently. I know Google is in the process of deploying things AI that's checking to make sure that content does not feel that it was written by AI. I know I can't remember the name of the forum, but one of the famous tech forums or developer forums, if I'm not mistaken, actually putting now in their terms and conditions that you cannot use automated ChatGPT or automated answers to actually post in the community. Probably Quora and things like that are going to come out with similar content, similar rules or restrictions very, very soon, because they're looking for authentic answers with people's real perspectives, not something that was repurposed from existing content from 2 years ago. So, from a year and a half ago. As well, it's the same problem. It's for kids in schools writing their essays, people in universities writing doing their coursework. It's also a huge problem at the moment. So there are actually AI content detectors and things like that have sprung up extremely, extremely quick. I'm going to pop the name of one in the chat. One that I came across the other day. So there are things. So the AI, of course, is getting better. It's getting harder to detect it. But I as well personally had the experience of editing a blog post for a client recently, and it was very, very clearly that it was simply a prompt that was put into something, and it didn't actually come with a proper structure or original thought. So for using ChatGPT for helping write blog posts, again, you need to know how you're using it. So you can't expect it to write for you. You need to have a good idea of what you actually want to say. Otherwise, you will be fully relying on it, and it can lead you into the wrong places, into the wrong direction. So make sure that you have an outline of bullet points. You can say, I'm writing a blog post on these 5 points. Help me expand each of these into a paragraph or something like that, and that can help you get the ideation process started. But do make sure that you're including your original perspectives, original strategy and content. Otherwise, it's going to be very, again, AI is creating content that that people don't want to read. At the end of the day, we see it happening time and time again.
Cool. Any thoughts on using ChatGPT if you're job searching and want to tailor your resume and or cover letter for a specific role?
I think we have to be very honest and say the tool is there. If it's helpful for some people, it will get used. So if you're creative enough to write your own cover letter to look great and so on, that's perfect. But if you're not, then you're gonna go to ChatGPT, and it might help you a lot. So you give it your CV, you give it the role that you're applying to. Maybe you give it a past cover letter and ask it to make a current cover letter, and I think it's going to do a great job. So I think people will use it, but then that's the first step of the interview. Then you get to maybe you have a second step. There's I don't know, case study, and then you start, meeting the team, and you're supposed to give real-time answers, and so yeah.
That'll help you up to a point.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Mark Evans wants, no, where's my question?
No, I saw the other question about other AI writing tools. I think just again, it's now what's going to be interesting, because this space is evolving really, really quickly, and we don't even know what what AI is going to look like even in a year from now. So even though there are existing AI writing tools, and now there's ChatGPT, and now there's all these other kinds of all these different things are popping up constantly. It really depends. There are some that, there are AI writing tools that are trained on specific data sets. If you're looking for, the better AI writing tools out there are the ones that are trained on specific data sets, or that you have. There's another app. There's another one called writer.ai, if I'm not mistaken. Another one called Writer, where it actually does things in line with your brand guidelines and content, whether it's human written originally or AI written originally. So you're actually starting from much faster. Again, you're starting not from zero, but it's giving you those pieces that you can actually start and bring to go through the execution process much quicker. So there's going to be more competition now, or between these AI tools. How are they differentiating from each other? User interface is going to be huge. Again, people like ChatGPT because it feels so casual. It's so easy. You ask a question, it's like, yeah, I can help you. If you're putting stuff into Jasper or Copy AI or other things, you don't get that back and forth. You don't feel like you're interacting with someone. At the same time, that's what I mentioned. That was a little bit, that's that potential with ChatGPT to lull people into thinking that it's correct information, whereas it's not. Again, you have to be smart enough to filter through everything, no matter where it's created. But user interface is going to become huge, I think, between these different tools. So what's that experience of actually using it, how easy it is to use it, and how easy it is to get it to a good result. So there's going to be huge competition now between all the other AI tools that are out there.
And I think it's important to mention that there are basically a few backbones, and many of the tools that we see are actually just hooked into OpenAI's API. So there's probably 500 services that are actually based on GPT-3. What OpenAI is doing, or Stable Diffusion on the visual side, and there are just a few big names that are actually competing. It's Google, it's Microsoft, OpenAI. It's there's one in China, or two in China, I think. So there's a couple of them. But then the differentiator is how you integrate it, and then the UX, and then the go-to-market distribution. So if people get comfortable with what was it? Do not pay, the legal startup, AI startup. No, that's the brand that they know. They don't care about OpenAI or whatever else. They just want it to work.
Thank you. Elizabeth wanted to know, I've heard artists have concerns about these because it might be scraping their work. Do you know how it's creating these images?
Yeah, for sure, their work is scraped, yeah. Eden, you're muted.
Okay, there we go. Took a second. Thanks for that. Yeah, it's no, the concerns are absolutely valid. It's the same issue currently with ChatGPT and a lot of other AI writing tools. What material were they trained on? If they were trained on copyrighted material, then it's like pirating movies. It's like pirating movies or pirating, Napster back in the day, pirating music and videos. It's the same thing. It's an issue. There's nothing really yet in place to help people prevent their works from being scraped. And you see people uploading things into Midjourney all the time, new pictures, so you don't know where they got it from. And then again, you're feeding more information into the machine as well. So it's going to be impossible for someone to actually track who uploaded their content and then use their content to create something more to rip off their content, creating their style. So it's a really messy area right now, ethically, in terms of ethics, plagiarism, and all those kinds of things. And there's going to be some heavy legislation rolling out from, I know, in Europe, and it's likely going to be everywhere else in the world, because they're scrambling to help clear up this mess. So it's a very tricky area. Again,
The thing is, we've had this before. So even with Google and publishers were saying, you're using our content to display ads, which is true.
Mhm.
On the other hand, it's driving traffic. It's true that Google is displaying ads on next to their content, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes people are paying for the ads are making money for Google, and the people are not necessarily visiting the publisher's website. So this discussion already started with publishers and Google, and now it's gonna go further with creatives and artists and AI. The thing is, being a black box, and now there are open source variants of it. It's almost impossible to stop it, because you can shut down. I'm not sure what the company behind Stable Diffusion is called, but then Stable Diffusion is an open source project, and I can copy it on my laptop. It's, I don't know, one gigabyte of everything, and then I run it locally, and that's it. And there's it's very hard to,
nothing you can do about it. Yeah.
so it's a hard discussion, and it's also hard to attribute it. With publishers, it was easier. That piece of news came from, I don't know, Le Monde in France. You can attribute it to them, but now you cannot, because it's really a black box. So maybe it's almost impossible to say, even if you investigate it, it's impossible to say what it took from where. So it's going to be a hard discussion, for sure.
Okay, and this next question, I think it's for me or Adriana, because it's about the agenda. If I prepare an agenda for my marketing sessions, can I reuse it as often as possible? I don't really want to spend this time talking about this too much, but yes, you can. If you want to know more, be sure to message us or book a demo, and we will take the time to show you. And there's one more from Amalia. This is such a hot subject, and your input is profound. Congrats, I am a late joiner. Will you consider to rehost this webinar? Adriana, I don't know.
Let's hope for doing it again, but we'll discuss later on, and we will let you know, guys, on our social media. But thank you for saying this.
Oh, that's all right. But Amalia, you should get the full recording though, at least anyway, so you might be able to skip through and see some of the bits. But yeah, we may or may not. We might be doing this again, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's true. There will be a recording. So I'm sure it will be uploaded to YouTube. Right, I think we've gone through it all, guys. Just want to bring the agenda back. So yeah, last but not least, thank you so much for being here, Eden, Tudor, for sharing your wealth of knowledge. It was super interesting. Also for me as a writer, really interesting. Yeah. Oh, and you'll see there's a poll popping up on the screen right now. So if you have a moment to spare, please tell us what you thought of this webinar. What did you love? What didn't you love? We would love to get your feedback. And also, we will be hosting more webinars in the future. Keep an eye on social media. We'll share all the info with you. All right. That's it from me.
That's right. Thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for staying with us
Yes.
way past the webinar time.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Yeah, this was cool and insightful. Quite dense. It was a pleasure.
Thanks,
Thank you for
everyone.
inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having us so much.